how high are you on the Cavaliers this year? I know I'm switching topics, but how high are you on them this year?
High enough to think they can compete with the Celtics in a good competitive
Do you think
game.
they could beat them? Because the Celtics look vulnerable as ever right now.
Oh, to answer that question, I think the answer is no until they prove it. But I think they can push them to a 6-game or a 7-game series. But what it really comes down to for me with this Cavalier team is being able to see it with your own 2 eyes. This year they're playing at the pace of a 71-win team, and it's the most competition Boston has. But you can't deny or overlook the type of run the Celtics had, which I think most people try to dismiss. It was one of the most easy cruises to an NBA championship we have seen. They won 16 games. They lost 4. Even in the super tight contest, they had control at all times. To me, in the Eastern Conference, right now it's the Cavaliers at number 1 because they have had a incredible start to the year. It's even been historic, 33-5. But I still believe that this Celtic team has kind of earned the ability after the last 5 years
to coast
and this last playoff to simply cruise through because their bench is one of the most complete with Peyton Pritchard, Sam Hauser, and Al Horford at the age of 37, 38, still playing at that quality
level. Is he getting
level.
his number retired?
He should, bro.
So
can I ask you a question, though? You don't think there's a difference in the Cavaliers' offense this year going up against the Celtics where Jared Allen and Evan Mobley this season have shown offensively they can be uber essential to what they're trying to do to be successful to ultimately win a game. For example, OKC, they have a depth issue while Chet has been out. It's Isaiah Hartenstein, and once you get to the bench, that's where you can take advantage. We saw Jared Allen and Evan Mobley really leave their mark on that game and were one of the main reasons why they were able to come away with the W. Going up against the Boston Celtics, if is banged up in any fashion, but let's live in a perfect world where KP's healthy, Al Horford's healthy. That's still strong depth, but regardless still, with the way that Jared and Evan Mobley have been playing, I think that them having that interior presence on the offensive side, it bodes a lot better to these other teams, other than OKC with a healthy Chet Holmgren, that it's not the craziest thing to see them win that series for the reason that their defense is incredible, but this offense has been the best in the Donovan Mitchell tenure with the Cavs.
They didn't have Jared Allen against them last year. And he would have made an impact, and Donovan Mitchell was on a heater.
And he got hurt.
I think where I'm at with the Celtics is I think they've been a little bit disappointing. I think they're clearly coasting, though, right now. They're not really taking the regular season serious at all, and they're getting good looks. They're just not hitting them. I feel like, looking back on it now, even though you can argue the numbers and the efficiency for Jaylen Brown were a little bit better than Tatum's, Tatum just dictates the game, and he should have been the ECF MVP. He should have been the Finals MVP.
That I disagree with wholeheartedly.
And Jason Tatum this year has taken a major leap in his game when Jaylen Brown has kind of been like, we kind of want to see more from you. Like
he's been cruising too
You're
much.
coming off of winning Finals MVP, and I mean, right now people wanted to have arguments about Tatum and Brown. We knew it was never really close. Tatum was by far a better player, but like, it's the gap right now is massive. Like Tatum is clearly their best player, and Jaylen Brown has kind of been a little bit underwhelming. I think the difference with why, even with the Celtics coaching, I feel very confident in Boston, is just the improvement that Tatum has in his isolation game. Like Tatum is one of the very best isolation players in the
isolation
league.
player.
Yes, the numbers back it up. Like we always knew that he was capable of doing that. He's capable of getting to the basket and hitting mid-range shots and hitting three-point shots.
He was letting me down for a little while.
But right now, this is the best version of Jason Tatum. And if we get the best version of Jason Tatum with the roster they still have, the only thing that can stop them from getting back to the finals is just three-point volatility. And Mazzulla was asked about it the other day about, the results for the three-point shooting not being there because there's a stat called expected three-point percentage. And Joe Mazzulla basically said that, they're getting good looks still. They're just not making the shots, but the process is still very sound, and we might get sometime soon the Celtics just go on a barrage against some sorry, helpless team. But, I think the Celtics, they have everything working in their favor, and even though the Cavaliers can challenge them, it's just very hard to envision somebody beating Boston still.
Yeah, right. I think, listen, if you want to pick Cleveland, if you think Cleveland has a shot, I think absolutely they deserve the respect. You go on a 71-win pace. I think you deserve whatever you want to say about them. They could go to the finals. They could win the finals. They've been playing so damn good this regular season. I think they've earned that. Two things. I think, one, I do think Boston is coasting, and I think that's a little worrisome. I just feel like, number one, we haven't had a repeat champion since the Golden State Warriors, right? And I feel like more often than not, when we have a team win the finals, we give them a lot of leeway, deservedly so. But we did the same thing with Denver last season, where it's like, yeah, they're coasting a little bit, even though they finished as, top 3 seed, whatever. They came up short in the playoffs. Of course, Jamal Murray didn't play to his level. He got banged up. But that's part of winning a finals. When you win a finals, of course, number one, the Celtics got lucky. They, had a bunch of injuries and whatnot. But Jaylen Brown was playing his best basketball, right? He won ECF MVP. He won Finals MVP, regardless of who you think deserved it. He was playing his best basketball at the time. You had Porzingis in that game one go crazy. You had Al Horford hit 7 threes or whatever it was against the Pacers. You're going to have moments where players play up and above expectation. Yep. That doesn't happen every playoff run. Like Jamal Murray played below expectation, where the year prior he played above. So you need everything to go right to win a championship. I think my biggest concern with Boston right now is Jaylen Brown can't shoot the damn ball.
It's killing me.
He's shooting under 32%. It's the worst of his career right now. He's gotten so damn big and so strong that you worry about. You always say you get in the weight room, you get these muscles, and you lose the shot because he's still such a good defender and he can get downhill and everything. But he has been so inefficient as a shooter that, goddamn, maybe last season when the Warriors said, yeah, let's leave him open, they were just a year too early because last year he was at least efficient. But Boston, really, the last 13 games, they're 7-6. Since December 19th, they have 6 games shooting under 30% from 3. For context, in the first 15 games of the season, that happened just one time. And the fourth quarter has really been the biggest issue for this team, because when we look on the season, even in these last 13 games, they're top 7 defense, top 7 offense. It's not like, all of a sudden they can't defend or they can't score. It's really been these fourth quarters in their wins. The 8 wins, they're shooting 53% from the field and 43% from 3 in the fourth quarter. And their 7 losses, they're shooting 37% from the field and 22% from 3. So they've had some really, really cold streaks, and I'm tuned into every Celtics game. They a lot of times miss open looks, like Derek White and Porzingis, Jaylen Brown, of course, where they're shots that they normally make and they're just missing right now. So, on one hand, everything has come back to the mean, and you got to hope that it goes back to, the league average 36-37% around what they were last year. I think they were at 38 last year. But yeah, I do worry a little bit about coasting, just because there's a reason why top 2 seeds in the NBA 99% of the time win the championship. Regardless of what you think about the regular season and load management, the regular season matters. History has told us if you are a good regular season team, you have an infinitely higher chance to win a championship than a team that takes it as a joke and sits everyone out and says, oh, we'll be a 6 seed and we'll just try to fight our way in. You got to be good in the regular season. Boston's still the number 2 seed, right? They're 5 games back. They're still on pace for 50+ wins. They're going to be fine there. But yeah, they have more competition this year. Cleveland is a really good team. The double big lineup is going to present them some challenges. Having Garland, Donovan Mitchell, of course, to get you buckets. I think the really question is, who's that wing defender? Because are you going to put Evan Mobley on Jason Tatum? He's going to go and guard the perimeter, and Jason Tatum runs everything, so you can have switches. It's going to be a really fun matchup and a really good matchup.
I feel like they got a lot of players, the Cavs do, to defend. Dean Wade might be like one of the X factors in that series. I think, his size. But then you have Karis LeVert, who's 6'6", who can defend well. Max Strus, he's a serviceable defender. I think you put Evan Mobley on one of Tatum or Brown, and you feel comfortable with that matchup the entirety of the series. And then you have Isaac Okoro. Like, they have 3 to 4 players who can guard up. And, you're not going to shut these players down, but they're going to put in a lot of effort defensively.
I will say, and I especially have been one of these people that have tended to overlook those role players. I do believe a guy like Karis LeVert can hang with Jaylen Brown. Jaylen Brown's going to win that matchup because he's a better player, of course, but we have seen this year all of those wing players in Cleveland step up to collectively kind of fix that small forward hole you could say they've had in past years. And I will say one thing. The Cavaliers last year, I think, still are missing an extra gear to them offensively, which they've gained this year, and I think that propels them to competing with the Celtics. But what it really does go back to is Kristaps Porzingis missing the entire series, and as well as the following series versus the Pacers. Even if the Cavaliers are banged up in that series, so was Boston. And when you look at that high-end outcome, I think that could be a fantastic 7-game series if we get in the conference finals. But there's always going to be that, looming question of how high and how far can Donovan Mitchell take you as that number 1? Because Evan Mobley this year started to transcend into that number 2. The question is really him in that series. If he has a superb series where offensively he's playing better than he ever has in his career, the Cavaliers do have a chance to win. My question is whether or not that will be this season, which is what still makes me favor that Celtic team when you have Jason Tatum as the best player. And then we know Jaylen Brown could still go mano a mano with a guy like Donovan Mitchell and be just as good because of that high-end production he's given you in the past.
Yeah, I mean, Mitchell's taken a step back this year offensively, right?
Just from like
let's say from a production standpoint, he's taken a step back. But I think that's planned, right? I don't think that's like just some coincidence. Like they have the best record, second best record in basketball.
I'm sure he's not mad.
5 games above the Celtics right now. Like keep doing what you're doing. But I agree, John, because once it comes to the playoffs, it's like, all right, yeah, I've been chilling, averaging 22, but in the playoffs, it's the conference finals against Boston. All right, I got to average close to 30. I can't just assume that, like, I've been spreading the wealth this regular season. Everyone's getting their shot, but at sometimes superstars got to be superstars.
I don't want to see them change their game too much come postseason, though. Because if you come out here and you win 65-plus games, clearly something you were doing was right. Play that same brand of offense. If Donovan Mitchell averages 22 to 24 in a series,
you think they can win the finals if he averages 22 to 24?
I don't know.
He needs to average like 28 a game.
That's what I'm saying.
See, but the thing is, when in this season so far, we've seen the core 4 all play at an elite level for their standard of basketball. They've all played at an elite level. I guess maybe outside of Donovan Mitchell, but even still, you look at Garland, what he's been able to do, especially closing out games, but really on the defensive side of the ball and what he means to that perimeter defense. He's been excellent in his role, really efficient as well. Evan Mobley, the defensive anchor that he is, but really what he's been able to be, handling the basketball as a roller, finishing near the rim, being able to stretch a little bit more, and then Jared Allen, his presence near the rim on both sides of the ball. The fact that we're watching all 4 of these players coexist so perfectly together on a court, I'm not trying to see, come playoff time at least, things change that drastically, because you want to at least show the trust and confidence in these in these players for this team. The idea is that this core 4, God willing, is able to stay healthy, and they're able to be on this team together for years. If you win 65-plus games, this is a core that I want to run for multiple seasons. Of course, it is indicative of what happens in the playoffs, but they've shown me nothing for me not to trust that this can translate to the playoffs, because defensively, they're so versatile, and then offensively, they have so many different facets, so many different ways that they can beat you.
Yeah, I agree with you, because you win 65 games, don't change what you're doing. I think it's just, when we're talking about the highest level, you're going against Boston, you're trying to win a finals, like something naturally has to change. You know what I mean? Like,
I agree.
Donovan has had to play at an even more consistent level, basically.
Yeah.
I mean, if he did what he did against Boston last year, they'll be all right.
No, facts.